Hello, learners. Welcome to our session today. I am instructor CPA Ringo Frederick. Today's session, it is a continuation of what you were doing earlier on. So in our class today, I want us to talk about a concept to do with scenario analysis. Remember in our previous class, we talked of sensitivity analysis. We also talked about the goal-seek concept, right? So in our class today, I want us to talk about sensitivity analysis and recall what we mentioned of the scenario analysis. What we mentioned of scenario analysis. You'll find that basically this is a process of examining and evaluating possible events or scenarios that could take place in future, and of course trying to predict the outcome of the same. So many times you'll find that in Excel we'll always be required to analyze our data in various aspects of maybe if we can term it states, and from these states or scenarios will always be required basically to give an outcome in relation to what you are having. So my good students, it is very important that we do understand each and every step here, because ideally we are talking of estimates, right? So in a very simple illustration here, we do have our revenue scenarios and we do have our cost scenarios, where I'm having the best case, base case, and worst case. Recall this question that we did in our pilot paper, BDA for CASNEB. Recall this paper that we did. It was question number 23, right? So we'll also use this question in a very simple manner to also demonstrate the scenario analysis. But for now, let us first of all understand the basics, right? So understanding the basics, my good students, these are what you must always tend to have in mind. These are what you must always tend to have in mind. Now, I need us to estimate our income or to determine our net income for the next 3 years, including 2022. So first procedure that we need to do, kindly follow this step. We have to, this is of course, I need to change this format to be 2022, right? So you can change this date to be estimate, because ideally we are looking at estimate. So I'll come to basically first of all, that is shift forward direction, in this case control 1, to take us to the shortcut of customizing our date factor. At this point, what I need to change is my date to be in estimate. So I'll be having my years, right, 2022, and in this case I want it to be on estimate, so backward slash E to give us a 2022 estimate, right? So after that, of course, I'll proceed to the next year, which in this case, to add our estimate, what we can do, I'm going to have our E date, estimate date, just function equal sign, E date. The start date, of course, is that, then plus 12 months to 1 year to give us 2023. And finally, we'll be talking of 2024. I'll just copy paste it there. How many scenarios are we looking at, my good students, here? We are looking at 3 scenarios. So the scenario that you're going to choose here, choose scenario 1. I'll be having scenario 1, our revenues, right? How will you go about it? Now, this is a point whereby you should be very keen, my good students. This is a point whereby you should be very, very keen. What you're going to do, I'll just do equal sign. I choose my date factor, so tab. The index number, that is what you're picking because it is scenario 1. I'm going to lock this because it will be constant all through. Lock, we click F4, right? So comma. Value, we are starting with our revenue, so value 1 is 50. I do comma, value 2, 25, comma, value 3, 12. Do you have any other value? We don't have any other value. So we close it at that point, then I do equal sign. So I'm just going to fill this across to give us for 2023 estimate. you can see the best case was 25. In 2024, best case is 250. What about cost of sales? The same procedure will apply. I'll do equal sign. We do choose tab. I need index number. That is our scenario area that we're having. Remember here, you can have any value. You can have any value. You can have any value. So that once we have that in mind, we are going to do for best case, comma, the base case, comma, and finally worst case. Then I close it, enter. So that as at the end of the day, I'm just going to fill it across. That is we have not locked. That's why you can see I'm having error, so you need to lock. So that if at all I scroll it at this point, voila, it will give us the details. Okay? So once we have that in mind, now you'll find that I've created our estimate, because remember, scenario analysis can also be used, or rather many times it is also used to forecast, right? It is also used to forecast. So once we have that in mind, my good students, the next thing that we are going to do is, so basically after we have prepared that, the next thing that you're going to do, like, remember this is for these cases here, like for the whole period, right? So if at all I can say, I want to say scenario 2, you see, it will give me the details for scenario 2 only, like these are what you're having, because you're selecting the scenario, because ideally here, this is the results for the best case. You can see these are the results for the best case, where I'm having my first base case revenue is 50 for 2022, 2023, 125 to 50 for 2024. Whereas in this other case for cost, basically these are what I should be having: 5, 12, 5, and 25,000, right? So that if at all I was to select scenario 2, see what is happening. Our data is changing automatically. Scenario 3, our data is changing automatically. Remember this Excel, by the way, you can download it just below this video. I've attached the link. So that is how we can work it out. Very easy way for us to identify, or for us to analyze our scenario analysis, which should be much easier and very, very easy if at all you are able to understand the concept of scenario analysis, which ideally it started from all these items of goal 6 sensitivity scenario, all these elements, my good students. So this was the first task that, or the last task that we are supposed to understand, the concept of scenario analysis. Now, to make it even more fun, there's something that I want to add on in this dish of ours. What if you select 4, for example? What will happen? You see, it will give you errors because we don't have scenario 4. So how will you be able to enable Excel to assist you to prevent such for someone probably who don't know, like we don't have scenario 4, we don't have scenario 5, so that if I put scenario that is not there, it will kind of return me back to the original scenarios. This is how you're supposed to work it out. Do you remember how to insert your drop down in Excel? Inserting drop down in Excel, my good students, we know very well that we are supposed to go to what? Data, right? Then you come to data validation. In this case, you click data validation. I want to validation criteria. I want to input what? The aspect of a list. And the source data, of course, we're having the same case. Then we do what? We do OK. So once we have that case, you'll find that it will enable us to determine the data that you are having. Say like in this case, you can find that I'm having 3. If you do 1, you might find that it will take us back there. But ideally, this point you'll find that I don't have the data to choose, right? So how will you make it easier for you to be able to select the data that you wish? Because ideally when you've done like this, there's no change with the other one. So this is the secret in the event that you don't have a clear list. So on data validation, what you do, you come and have 1, 2, and 3 to lock up to 3. So that when we do like that, these are what you should always be having in mind, my good students. So when you do like 1, 2, 3, then you do OK, of course, so that when you come here, see how it will be easy. You just be able to select that you choose, if it is 2, if it is 3, so that if you go to 4, you'll find that this value doesn't match a data validation restrictions defined to this cell. So it will take you back to retry again. So in this case, it will not pick. Therefore, we'll have to go back to the data that we have. That is 3 criteria, you see? So this is an easy way that you can work out data validation. This is an easy way that you can work out the aspect of basically creating a drop-down list in Excel. Now, this was our example, or first example. Now, let us check out the other example from our pilot paper, which in this case, recall this question, we had already prepared these items. So what I need to do, I'm going to add another sheet here for this data of ours, which ideally what Mwalimu can do here, I can take these cases here. I can just take the cases here so that you should be able to understand it clearly, right? The same case, I'll be having them there. The same case, I'm going to have them there. Revenue scenarios, we're having the revenue scenarios, which ideally I'd be having this are the revenue scenarios 2023. Base, worst and best. So this is, I'll be having this scenario here. So in this case, of course, we are going to interchange like best to be there, base in between, and this is what we'll be having. I'll show you how easy it is, right? So what you're going to do on this, I'm going to transpose to have various cases. Remember, this is 2023, right? That is 2023. 2024, how will you go about it? Actually, what I could have done, let me do this on the same sheet on this data of ours. So I'm going to have it here. Yeah, to be much easier on our end, work it out on the same. Now, after having that case, we proceed to 2020, or rather in terms of cost. So in terms of cost, basically, the same case, I'm going to pick it here. These are cost scenarios, right? These are basically cost scenarios, which in this case, you're going to have it here, case scenarios. This now will be our 1, this will be our 2, and this should be our 3. The same case I should be having here, 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3, okay? So our cost 2023, our cost 2023, our cost 2023, again, I'm just going to take it the way it is here, cost. So these are basically our costs. I'll first of all copy it there, then I pick it up and transpose it here. basically these are our costs, right? So having that case, we proceed and determine, of course, what we had in terms of 2024. So the same case will apply here. We are going to take the same component we will be having 2020. I'll just do for that. I'm going to have, let me copy paste all of these the way they are so that it will be much easier on our end. So that I know this is 2024, I transpose it, right? We are having this, I transpose it there. Right? So once we have that, we go to 2025. Same procedure will apply. I'm going to take 2025. Data for 2025. These are data for 2025. Remember, it is exactly the same thing that we are doing here, what we've done in relation to the previous example. So now this is a question which was tested basically in a pilot paper, is the one that you are handling, so that you should be able to understand it much clearer, right? So I transpose it there. I come and I transpose it at that point there. So once we have this data details, these things will be very easy, right? Now what I'm going to do, my good students, allow me just to copy paste this data the way we had here. You see? So once we have this, you'll find that things actually will be much easier, because now I'll have to create my scenario, which we are having a scenario at that point. So having that case, all this I'm going to delete. We are talking of 2023, 2024, 2025, right? So my revenue, remember the procedure, case scenario is 1, where I'm having my revenues, which will be equal sign I choose, right? So my index number, comma, my first value, second value, third value, I close and I lock my first data, which is index number. I lock my index number, so that if I do like this, it will cut across all through. For cost, the same procedure. I'm going to do choose function. Index number will just be the same. In this case, we can lock it up. I do comma. Then we have what? The first cost, second cost, third cost. Close. What we need to do is to close that. So basically these are, remember, these are for the best case scenarios, right? We add our data validation. Recall, you come to data, we have data validation, we add our drop down list of 3 scenarios, 1, 2, 3 scenarios, right? So that if at all I was to choose my scenario 1, in that case you can have it at that point. Scenario 2, I can have it at that point. Scenario 3, that is. Scenario 1, scenario 2, scenario 3. You see how we are achieving the same results? Because if you can compare, this is scenario 3. That is a scenario 3, which is a best case. Check with what we had. we just look at our best case year 1, best case year 2, best case year 3, which is exactly the same that we are getting here. So you'll find that these are ways that you can use your scenario analysis to work out such problems. I know you guys have learned, and therefore in our next class, we're going to look at another concept for the same, whereby it will be data visualization in financial reporting. To this point, thank you so much, and let us meet in our next class. I was your instructor, CPA Aringo Frederick. Thank you.